The Ghost of Gonzo. Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail from beyond the grave. Jesus Christ. They told me politics was a blood sport, but I never realized it was a reptilian cockfight run by lawyers and lunatics, until I woke up in 1972 with Richard Nixon's sweaty jowls pressed against the glass of America's soul. It was not a campaign, no. It was a death march through the halls of democracy, where every handshake left slime on your palm and every smile hit a knife. I was sent to cover it. Me, Hunter S. Thompson, the least reliable bastard in the press corps, with a Samsonite full of mescaline and a typewriter that sounded like machine gun fire when I hit the keys. Nobody sane wanted this job. Nobody wanted to spend a year stuffed into motel rooms and campaign buses, sucking down cold coffee and half-watching political hacks lie to each other. But I did. And I came armed. The beginning. Nixon's reptile campaign. It started with Nixon. Christ, it always started with Nixon. He was the central beast, the alpha lizard of American politics. Sweaty, paranoid, a man who looked like he de-sold his soul for a cheap sandwich somewhere around 1946. I already hated him for years, ever since his early red baiting days, and now he had the White House in his claws. The U-72 race wasn't just another election. It was the chance for Nixon to build his empire of paranoia into a permanent American nightmare. The Democrats, meanwhile, were eating themselves alive. You had George McGovern, a decent man doomed by decency. You had Hubert Humphrey still trying to wash the stink of Vietnam off his hands. And you had Ed Muskie, the big Polish hope from Maine, whose entire campaign I personally torched with one well-placed rumor about a drug he had never even seen. Ibogaine. Jesus wept. What a beautiful lie. The Muskie-Ibogaine incident. Ah, Muskie, poor bastard. The press corps was circling him like vultures, waiting for something, anything, to sink their teeth into. And I, in a fit of late-night madness and wild turkey inspiration, gave it to them. I wrote, straight-faced, with no winks or nods, that Ed Muskie was secretly addicted to ibogaine, an exotic African hallucinogen known for causing bizarre rages and gibbering fits of madness. It was a joke, a savage joke, but the bastards believed it. Soon, everywhere Muskie went, there were whispers. Was he sweating too much? Did he look pale? Was that a twitch or the early tremors of an ibogaine fit? By the time he broke down in tears on a snowy day in New Hampshire, the narrative was sealed. Muskie was finished. The ibogaine had cooked him alive. I watched it happen. I watched a man's career go down in flames because of a single lunatic invention by a drug-soaked hack with a typewriter. It was savage, it was cruel, and it was goddamn beautiful. Terrorizing the press corps. The truth was, I wasn't just covering the campaign. I was at war with it. The press buses were rolling circuses of liquor, typewriters, and ulcers. Half the reporters were drunk, the other half were asleep, and all of them were trying to churn out the same bland copy about momentum and delegates. I decided to make it worse. I'd stumble onto the bus at 4 a.m., still reeking of mescaline and gunpowder, and start telling stories about Nixon's latest crimes or Muskie's drug binges. I'd type like a demon, pages flying, until the other hacks started sweating. They never knew what I'd publish or who I'd destroy. Editors learned to fear my copy. Late, rambling, often written through a haze of chemicals, but too raw, too savage to ignore. They had no choice but to print it. Nixon, the animal in the room. Nixon loomed over all of it. Every convention, every rally, every seedy hotel room stank of him. He was America's dark ID, the gnashing teeth under the mask of democracy. I could smell him on the wind. One night, hallucinating in Miami, I saw him clearly. Nixon as a massive reptile crouched in the press room gnawing on a baby's skull while the reporters dutifully scribbled notes about foreign policy. Nobody else saw it, but that didn't mean it wasn't true. Nixon was the nightmare animal that haunted the American psyche, and 1972 was his coronation. Owl Farm War Room. When I wasn't on the trail, I was holed up at Owl Farm in Colorado, my home, my fortress, my lunatic zoo. The place was an arsenal, shotguns, .44 Magnums, M16s, and the constant crack of gunfire echoing off the valley walls. I'd write in bursts, fingers hammering the typewriter while I fired rounds into the night to clear my head. Owl Farm was more than a house. It was my private kingdom, where the campaign madness spilled out into gunfire and peyote visions. From there, I plotted Nixon's downfall, dreamed of freak power revolutions, and drank enough whiskey to drown a horse. Owl Farm was both refuge and battlefield. It was the center of the Gonzo War, the end of the wave. But the wave broke. Christ, it always breaks. McGovern stumbled to the nomination only to be gutted alive in the general election. Nixon crushed him, 49 states to 1, and strutted back into the White House like a bloated king. America had chosen the lizard, the press corps had failed, and I was left with a head full of scars and a liver full of whiskey. The campaign trail ended not with triumph, but with the sickening realization that the American dream had been sold cheap, traded for fear and order. Nixon had won. The bastards always win. The ghost speaks. Now from beyond the grave, I look back on it all and laugh. The rumors, the drugs, the terror, none of it mattered in the end. Nixon still burned the country. Muskie still sank. McGovern still died on the cross of American politics. And me? I kept writing, kept firing, kept drinking until the typewriter keys melted into the floor. But God damn it, somebody had to tell the truth. Somebody had to scream while the bastards gutted the system. And that was me, Hunter S. Thompson, the last honest outlaw in a country that sold its soul for cheap. Outro, the ghost rides again. So here we are, 50 years later, and Nixon's ghost still slithers in the veins of American politics. The machine still grinds, the press still lies, and the Gonzo spirit still howls in the night. Make sure you subscribe to Eatrice Town 10 on YouTube and follow the Ghost of Gonzo on Podbean, because the fight isn't over. This is the ghost of Hunter S. Thompson, signing off. Take the ticket, punch the ride.